Now, no one would ever say in the wake of Michael Cohen's plea deal and the conviction of Paul Manafort, no one would ever say that the left-wing media in its Trump hatred has just gone over the cliff like lemmings into complete babbling nonsense. Oh, wait, I would say it. That's exactly what's happening. Yesterday, according to the Media Research Center, and their site Newsbusters, which we love so much, CNN and MSNBC said the word impeachment 222 times yesterday in reaction to this. Let me tell you something. Ain't going to be no impeachment over this. This is basically, Michael Cohen said that Donald Trump told him to pay, a couple of $100,000 to two women to keep them quiet about the fact that they had an affair with him, that he didn't want that to come out, so he paid him off. He paid him hush money. And the press is saying, oh, well, because that would be a crime. It might be a crime under campaign finance laws if Michael Cohen had done it. So therefore, it's a crime because if Trump told him to do it. That's not true, and we'll explain that to you. We'll talk to Jenna Ellis about it. But listen to this montage that our friends at Newsbusters made of the way cable news, especially left-wing CNN and left-wing MSNBC, covered this.
The President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, is named a co-conspirator of a federal crime.
Is that grounds for impeachment?
Do you think impeachment is more likely at this point?
Impeachment.
Does this move the needle at all?
More confidence to move forward on impeachment.
The president facing impeachment.
Impeachment will be on the Democrats' agenda.
The I word, impeachment.
The I word, impeachment.
The I word, impeachment.
The I word.
The I word and impeachment.
Let's take a look at the process of impeachment. Impeachment, 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 to impeach or impeachment. Impeachment, he would have been impeached. All of it bringing impeachment back to the forefront.
Talking about impeachment.
Impeachment talk.
Impeachment is a more viable option.
Do you think it would be appropriate to immediately begin impeachment proceedings?
Impeachment.
Impeachable.
Impeachment. 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 Impeachment.
Impeachment. Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Now, we're going to get to the legal aspect of this and the political nonsense of this, but one of the things you're seeing here is that the left is caught in its own time warp, because it's the left from the late 60s on, the left that corrupted the culture. The culture corrupted Trump and created people like Donald Trump, and now they're condemning Trump for stuff that they've been promoting all these years, and all the ones who do it. We used to be, the conservatives used to be the sexual prigs, right? We're the one who would condemn them for their sexual promiscuity. We would talk about marriage and fidelity, and that all this sexual stuff that was coming into the arts and into music was bad for us. And they said, no problem. And then suddenly they're telling us that Trump is a bad guy because of his sexual life, which is the sexual life they preach to us. They're caught in this time warp between what they sold us in their culture and what that ugly culture has produced in the person sometimes of Donald Trump. I read yesterday they're making a movie about Roger Ailes and his sexual scandal, and I thought, cool, that's a good idea. What about Harvey Weinstein and Matt Lauer and Charlie Rose and Al Franken and Kevin Spacey and all the other Democrats who have been part of this Me Too scandal, where we find out what life becomes like when women aren't ladies and men aren't gentlemen. And this is the thing. We were the prigs. We were the guys preaching against it. And now suddenly it's them. And they're not only are the left-wing men getting caught up in it, but do you know how it's pronounced? Asia Argento. She was a Italian actress and director who stood up and said, Harvey Weinstein raped me, and I'm part of the Me Too movement. She became a Me Too leader. Now it's come out that she had quietly arranged to pay almost $400,000 to a guy named Jimmy Bennett, a young actor and rock musician, who said she sexually assaulted him in a California hotel room years earlier when he was only 2 months past his 17th birthday, and she was 37. The age of consent in California is 18. And Barry Weiss, the somewhat conservative columnist over at the New York Times, wrote a column about this, and she started by saying women are hypocrites, women are opportunists, women are liars. They are abusers and bullies and manipulators. They're capable of cruelty, callousness, and evil, just like men. So in other words, if the Me Too movement isn't a feminist movement, and we know it is, and if Title IX isn't just a tool to hurt men, and we know it is, what is it? Oh, it's conservatism. They tell us it's feminism, but if it's not about women, if women can be just as much a part of the Me Too movement as men, then it's conservatism. That's what it's about. It's actually all the stuff that the Me Too movement is actually all the stuff we've been selling. And by the way, the left does this all the time. They tell us our values stink. They tell us we're racist, we're sexist. Then they adopt our values and say, oh yeah, but the conservatives are the bad guys. We're always the bad guys, even when they're telling us that the values we've been trying to sell them for 40 years are the values they now want to adopt. So now with Trump, they're caught in this time warp between the culture they created and the effects of that culture. And one of the unintended consequences of this Michael Cohen thing is it is undermining their attempt to scuttle the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh. This is really interesting, okay? Because yesterday, Chuck Schumer, they drop on this any way they can. They say, oh, we've got to delay because of this Michael Cohen thing. We've got to delay the appointment of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. Here's Chuck Schumer.
I asked him a more basic question. Does he believe that a sitting president must comply with a subpoena or testify or provide records? He would not say that the president must comply with a subpoena. I asked him that in the most extreme situation, a criminal investigation against a sitting president where our national security is at stake. Could the investigator subpoena the president? He wouldn't say he would. Now, that was before the news that broke late yesterday. During our meeting, actually, the news broke that President Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, implicated the president in a violation of campaign finance laws. The sequence of those two events, Kavanaugh's refusal to say that a president must comply with a duly issued subpoena, and Michael Cohen's implication of the president in a federal crime, makes the danger of Brett Kavanaugh's nomination to the Supreme Court abundantly clear.
Okay, so they're pretending. This is all kabuki. They're pretending that the Michael Cohen plea deal and the Manafort convictions are why they're calling for the delay of the Kavanaugh nomination. But in fact, they've been calling for the delay of the Kavanaugh nomination since the Kavanaugh nomination was made. They've been doing everything they can, calling for all his documents. This is a guy who's made something like 300 public decisions. You can tell what kind of judge he is. You can tell what kind of man he is by the records that are right there. But they're trying to slow this thing down. But here's Cory Booker pushing this this is the moment after the nomination this is a video from the moment after the nomination is made. The moment after Trump announces the nomination, here's Cory Booker pushing the same thing they were pushing yesterday.
I'm a little sort of stunned at the way this is all played out. If you look at the entire list of 20 or so people that he had on, the one person the president could find on that list that would be most assured to rule in his favor, should many of the things you're describing come before the Supreme Court, is this judge. He picked the one guy who has specifically written that a president, in fact, should not be the subject of a criminal investigation, which the president is right now. So this seems to be, of all the people, the most self-serving person he could choose in order to protect himself from this criminal investigation.
So their line of argument now is that Brett Kavanaugh is no good because he won't be tough enough on the president that they're trying to indict. Okay, they're trying to indict for these federal campaign law violations. But the day before, or maybe it was 2 days before, the Manafort conviction and the Cohen plea deal came out, the New York Times floated, and is clearly floating the Democrat strategy, floated the strategy that they were going to go after Brett Kavanaugh on a leak that took place when Kavanaugh was part of the investigation into Clinton's adultery, into Bill Clinton's adultery. So here was their headline. It was Brett Kavanaugh urged graphic questions in Clinton inquiry. Brett Kavanaugh, President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, urged prosecutors investigating President Bill Clinton to question him in graphic detail about his sexual relationships with Monica Lewinsky, a White House intern. Mr. Kavanaugh spent more than 3 years working for Ken Starr, the independent counsel who investigated the scandals. The memo was shot through with disgust for Mr. Clinton's behavior and seemed animated by the deep animosity that had developed between the White House and Mr. Starr's team. They quote Kavanaugh, "The president has disgraced his office, the legal system, and the American people by having sex with a 22-year-old intern and turning her life into a shambles, callous and disgusting behavior that has somehow gotten lost in the shovel," Mr. Kavanaugh wrote. So now you remember, if you go back, Ken Starr was the Puritan prig who was trying to burn Bill Clinton at the stake for his sexual malfeasance, right? And so they're saying that evil Brett Kavanaugh was part of that priggish, backward, sexually uptight world. Except now it's them. Now they're going to bring, how can they now bring that against Kavanaugh? They can't. So their only thing they can now say, they now have to say, oh, and you're going to be too easy on him, because afterwards Kavanaugh said, you know what, I was too hard on Bill Clinton. We shouldn't indict a sitting president. So the very puritanical Ken Starr attack that the people who attack people for their sexual behavior are Puritans, are mean, are stupid, or backward. Now they're stuck. They're stuck in that position. They're caught in a time warp. You just have to play one more cut before we go into our interview. One of the unintended consequences of this is that a lot of stuff that Michael Cohen has said are kind of blowing back on him, because he's now under oath before a trial, before a court. And one of the things that he said was, first of all, that as far as he knew, Donald Trump had no prior knowledge of the meeting at Trump Tower with the Russian lawyer, which is a very big lever the left is hoping to use to pry Trump out of office. But the other thing that he said was that the Steele dossier, remember the Steele dossier said Michael Cohen was in Prague meeting with Russians. And here is Lanny Davis, who has been just ferocious against Donald Trump. Here's Lanny Davis talking about that charge in the Steele dossier, which you remember is what they used to get a FISA warrant to tap and spy on the Trump campaign. Here's Lanny Davis talking to Chuck Todd about the Steele dossier's validity in regards to Michael Cohen.
Can you say definitively whether you know if Michael Cohen ever was in Prague in 2016?
Never in Prague. Did I make that? Never in Prague. Ever. And the reason, just to let your viewers know what I'm talking about, is that the dossier, so-called, mentions his name 14 times, one of which is a meeting with Russians in Prague. 14 times false. It was posted as an extensive letter rebutting, but about Prague, which is an illusion that's been repeated infinitely, the answer is no, never.
And Todd is trying to cut him off because that kind of completely overturns the idea that the FBI acted properly in getting a FISA warrant using the Steele dossier without telling the FISA judge that it was paid for by the DNC and Hillary Clinton. All right, so there is just some interesting unintended consequences of this moment. We see the left caught in this time warp where they are becoming the sexual prigs. They are becoming the defenders of conservative sexual values. Hey, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard, gang. We love it. Please support conservative sexual life. That would be a good thing for the country and a good thing for everything. But just give us a little credit for bringing you along. Don't accuse us of stuff. Give us a little credit for bringing you over and finally convincing you that your culture stank. The culture that you pushed on us for 50 years was awful.